Okay, we are doing the second part of our meeting in the Committee of the Whole. And today we have with us Jason and Chow, the Explorer. What's the name of your company, Jason?
Explorer Solutions.
Explorer Solution, to talk about the county strategic plan. So I'll open it up, and Jason, I'll turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Deputy Warden, apologize. Warden, mayors, members of council today, we are very pleased to have this opportunity as the fifth of 5 discussions with council throughout Frontenac County. Again, my name is Jason Kipfer, Director of Economic Development with Explorer Solutions. I'm joined with my colleague Shao, our market research analyst, and today we have an interactive discussion lined up for all of you this morning. We are going to bring you up to speed on some aspects, and we have a half a dozen questions to help guide the discussion. I have had the privilege of meeting some of you throughout our travels in the consultation process to date, and there's been a variety of very exciting topics discussed and priorities and issues. So please, I encourage all of you to continue to bring that enthusiasm and energy to today's discussion.
And just before you go forward, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest by any member of council on this topic? Okay, none showing, so that'll be noted. Thank you.
We're just correcting a quick technical issue here with the transition of slides. Okay, I think we're back on track. So we've prepared a small agenda to, again, help guide today's discussion. We'll just quickly highlight the project goals and objectives of the county's strategic plan. Share with all of you a little bit, and those joining us remotely, how is a county strategic plan used? We'll summarize the planned engagement activities taking place so far and those that are lined up in the very near future. And to help set the stage, I know that you have likely all of this memorized by now, but I will just review Frontenac County's vision and mission statements from its 2019-2022 strategic plan, and just briefly highlight its strategic priorities. Again, it's more about setting the stage. The intent today is not to evaluate the success of completion of those priorities. We are looking forward into the next 3 to 4 years. We'll move into our council focus group discussions and summarize with some next steps. So the project goals and objectives. A county strategic plan defines strategic objectives with achievable outcomes that are distinct from the standard operating initiatives the county undertakes year after year. Strategic planning is a process by which an organization assesses how it's doing, figures out where it wants to go, and charts a path to get there. Strategic plans also help define important goals, set specific directions, and clarify policy and budget priorities. Since activities like budgeting and capital planning are undertaken during the regular course of work, there's often no distinct outcome or completion point to these activities. While a vital part of municipal government, these activities are not in themselves strategic objectives, as these plans will continue to be discussed and developed on a continued basis. So how is the county strategic plan going to be utilized? The plan will enable county administration and council, member municipalities, local business community stakeholders to work together to champion a sustainable growth agenda for the county. For members of the public, the strategic plan communicates a 4-year vision for the county and the related priorities for this term of council. Additionally, it reflects the county's aspirations and input for the services they receive. And it formalizes county council's commitment to customer service and satisfaction for all residents of the county. For businesses and community organizations, the strategic plan reflects the county's commitment to partnering with businesses and community organizations to achieve the county's 4-year goals. And for county council, managers, and employees, the strategic plan informs policy, operational, and budget decisions, and it provides a structure to ensure oversight and management of county programs and services. So as I mentioned at the beginning of our presentation, there are a number of planned engagement activities, and the objective of these activities are to help us explore solutions, strengthen our understanding of the local context, particularly given the post-pandemic and current economic and worldly events. It helps us gain insights into current and emerging strategic priority areas throughout Frontenac County. and it helps us support the development of strategic recommendations for inclusion within the county strategic plan. So to summarize our planned engagement activities, this is the 5th of 5 focus group discussions. I will be seeking your input this morning for recommendations on individuals for whom we should be having one-on-one meetings with. We're looking at going live and promoting our open houses this week, as well our general public online survey and youth consultation online survey as well too. So moving into kind of setting the stage here, wanted to just kind of re-highlight the county's vision and mission statements. Its mission is the effective, efficient, and sustainable delivery of services to its citizens. And its vision, the County of Frontenac is committed to sustaining diverse, strong, resilient rural communities known for their unique natural environment and lifestyle choices. We will touch upon this. We are looking to revalidate that this mission and vision is applicable in the 2023 and post 2023 context. There are 3 strategic priority areas emanating from its 2019-2022 strategic plan. The first one is to get behind plans that build community vitality and resilience in times of growth and change. To do this, the county is looking to provide committed leadership and continuing support to the long-term regional plan to enhance broadband and cell service. Secondly, is to refine and invest in efforts to accelerate economic development, to grow businesses, attract more visits, and expand the tax base. And thirdly, to pursue proactive planning approaches that reflect local concerns and priorities within strategic regional planning policy so as to enhance service levels, manage rising demand for new housing, and deal with new types of development. The second strategic priority is to explore new funding sources and invest wisely in critical long-term infrastructure. To do so, the county was looking to meet the needs of future capital projects, explore new sources of funding support, both current and future programs, cost-sharing options, and other potential economies. Additionally, to design a framework, explore options, and initiate plans for development of a long-term care facility that will meet Fairmont Homes' mandate. Thirdly, is to develop plans within a changing legislative and service delivery landscape to provide additional facilities for Frontenac paramedics that will effectively meet steadily growing demand for services and accommodate more paramedic training. Fourth is to finalize plans and financing to replace, construct, and renovate aging county buildings now used for administration services through a shared admin facility if possible. And lastly was to explore a collaborative upper tier role for the county in securing potential funding and support for township maintenance of roads, bridges, and a regional road system. And thirdly, the third strategic priority was to champion and coordinate collaborative efforts with partners to resolve complex problems otherwise beyond the reach of individual mandates and jurisdictions. Through this, the county was looking to work with the townships, other municipalities, and levels of government on broad infrastructure issues ranging from environmental concerns to regional transportation strategies for residential, social, and economic purposes and access to funding. Secondly, was to play a leadership role on communications to promote shared messaging for all regional initiatives, such as economic development, tourism and lifestyle opportunities, and broadband and cell services. And lastly, to continue to pursue collaborative opportunities to achieve service and cost efficiencies in other economies through cost sharing and shared services. So that was a mouthful. I think, again, a lot to bring back up to speed, but I know that a lot of these items resonated with each of you, and I can see it from this, recalling the discussions I've had with many of you this week. So we're going to move into the discussions now, and we will address the questions one at a time. They are all available on the screen right now, so I know that in your council package, you've seen the questions that are going to be coming up as part of the discussion. What I would like is I'll ask the first question, and I want you to think about this in terms of building the foundation from the county's perspective. And as we dive deeper into the questions will become more refined around how are we going to achieve that. Some of you who have participated in our focus group discussions over the past couple of weeks, please feel free to echo those sentiments that came from your council meetings today as well too, so that they are shared with all. And if there's additional comments, we certainly encourage that. We encourage you to share your comments from the townships and the jurisdictions that you represent. But as a resident of the county and being well familiar with the entire landscape of the county, please also feel free to share comments and thoughts from other perspectives that might help guide and influence the direction of the county strategic plan. So the first question is, what elements should be considered in Frontenac County's updated mission and vision statements? And what I'll do is I'll just revert back to the mission and vision statements because we do want to ensure that they are applicable in a post-pandemic era. Mayor.
Okay, Judy's going to start us off.
Okay, when I was looking at the mission, one thing that came to my mind was something like provision of sustainable essential services to the rural communities we serve.
Okay.
And on the vision part, vibrant, resilient rural landscape and communities with strong community engagement and agricultural connections. So that was just my thought for more update.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor Greenwood Spears.
Okay, who's next? Just shoot from the hip.
And I'll say if there's keywords or I don't want to say quotes, but if there's keywords that are attributed that you would like to see considered in the structure of a full mission and vision, if you don't have a full proper sentence or statement organized or in your head, please share with us particular words that you want us to think strongly about as well too.
This is kind of like brainstorming. We're throwing everything out and it will be caught and make it look different. Fred, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. You were talking about capital projects and my mind goes back to roads. The structure of the road department in the county and in the township is kind of like a mixed bag, and the conditions of the roads that we have up in North Frontenac are not the best roads there are. Down here in the south part of the county, we've got, I see a lot of nice roads. I see nice roads in other counties as well, even in the back areas. My concern is that, is there grant money that we're missing out because of the structure of our agreements between the county and the townships? I'd like to see that explored. And like in individual townships, all of our roads are a little bit different. Our area, I have to keep going back to it, not only are the roads not the best there are, but there are some areas in our township that are isolated. And one little road going through the woods might connect that particular part of the township. And I've been on a back road through there, which is not even registered as a road, and with my own vehicle, and I got very far, very close to another road that would connect it. I would like to see some sort of funds with the assistance from the county, maybe go towards improving the roads in all the townships. I think we all have different problems, and I'd like to see us try to work towards something on that area.
Jerry?
So along those lines, especially as you get away from the larger urban areas out to, more rural areas. First of all, let me back up. I'd like to see the vision or the mission have something about economic development. Now, as you get away from the more urban areas into the rural areas, one of the biggest things that we could do to promote economic growth, increase the tax base and so on, would be to enhance cellular and broadband service. People in this day and age now want to work from home. Why shouldn't they be able to sit in their big home overlooking the lake and work away? And we don't have the infrastructure to allow them to do that in many cases. Yes, EOR's working on cell, and yes, broadband's coming, but it's not going to be enough. We have to keep going. So that's why I think that alone, those two items would go a long way to promoting economic development. Because if I can work here, my neighbor, one of my in-laws is Canadian, works in England. He comes here, he starts work at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's done at 11 o'clock. But the demand on the internet is not much at that point in time. And the rest of the day, it's a no-go.
Ron,
You'll have to forgive the pun, but South Frontenac will not go down to a regional road system. We've been down that road. It's very clear, and they will not contribute funds to a county system. And they made that very clear. We have put 5-year road plans in. We have asset management. We have everything on the go. And we're not going to contribute to a county road system where it's going to take funds from South Frontenac to support that. And I can speak, I think, quite clearly for my council that they will not even entertain it this time. We've been down that road and we've had all the discussion, and it was very clear our council would not support it, period. So they will not support it again either.
Just for the format of what you're doing here and that, I thought that, you had your 8 questions basically. And while it can be organic and that, I have lots of comments on different of these questions. How are you proceeding? Are you doing, this was question number 1 regarding any input into mission and vision. That's why I gave you that. If we're going on to other areas, I got lots of comments, but just, I want to know your structure. Thanks.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, it's very easy to go in different directions. We will follow the planned questions. The last question does open it up to additional comments, and I think that would be a great opportunity to expand on other areas of interest.
okay, we have Bill and then Ray.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I'm looking at the vision statement, and the word sustaining, I think, is bothering me. I think it's pretty clear that Eastern Ontario is going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to grow in terms of population. It's going to continue to grow in terms of economic development. And I think the thought of sustaining is somewhat limiting. I think we need to be prepared for growth in all those areas, which would include the necessary infrastructure, broadband, perhaps roads. Expansion. Diverse, yes. Strong, yes. Resilient, yes. But I think we need to be looking to the future because I think it's inevitable that Eastern Ontario is going to grow.
And then Ron.
Thank you. I've got to agree with what Ron said. We also have roads that are in rough, bad shape. But when you're out campaigning, people are asking you, and this is one of the questions that come up. Are we going to go into the county system like it used to be years ago? And I told them right up front. We said no, and we still stand at no.
Just have to add one note to that is that I don't believe what was proposed in the old system was the same as what was here before. But again, there's a lot of folks here that have never seen those plans and maybe won't get to see them. Ron, go ahead.
On the last line there, the County of Frontenac is committed to sustaining diverse. I agree, and just to follow up on what Councillor Saunders is saying, I know everybody thinks that they moved to the country because it's natural, environmental, this lifestyle choice, everything else. But there's houses being built everywhere and it's not what it used to be. And they come out here thinking that, okay, I'm never going to get another house beside me. And we had just a proposal for a duplex in a fairly populated area and 50 people were opposed to another house coming. So I think it's to support, but I don't think the reality is we're going to sustain it the way it was.
Could we change sustaining to promoting? It's committed to promoting diverse, strong, and resilient rural communities.
Or promoting and support.
That works. Because I agree with you, it's like in North Frontenac, a lot of the good land is gone on the waterfronts, especially. It's a different world.
And the natural part, of course, we still have Frontenac Park, we still have trails, we have all of those things, but to think that because I bought a piece of paradise, nobody else wants it, is not the reality anymore. Everybody wants it. And so that's not going to stay the way it was.
You go ahead.
If we're just working with wordsmithing the vision piece, somewhere along the line, we should also articulate that this is a working area, and that, you know, agriculture being a major sustaining economic piece of this community, so that people aren't mystified when the manure gets spread in the springtime either. And that, like, it's nice to talk about natural environment and lifestyle choices, but this is a working rural area. And so I think there needs to be a recognition in there. Personally, I think this is a great time to have renewal of mission and vision myself.
Ron?
Well, on that mission too, what I don't want to just be about South Frontenac. I'm not trying to do that, but of course, as you know, that's my hat. We really pointed out that what we looked to for the county was advocation. And we have that at AMO, we have that at other higher forms of government, even though we can go there on our own, I understand that. But when the county did a private road study for all municipalities, it was hugely beneficial. I assume to the other municipalities, but it was for South Frontenac. So they're doing the same thing with communal septic and wells. That could be a huge game changer for South Frontenac, but it could be for other municipalities too. So I know from my chair and our council, we look to the county for that support and advocacy outside of our council chamber.
Fred, I think you're next.
Yes, Deputy Warden. My view of the area is that this is becoming a desirable place for people to want to come and live. There are a lot of people in the larger communities, such as Toronto and Ottawa, that have real value in their real estate, and it comes to a time in their life when they want to move on. And this Frontenac County is a target where people would like to come. And we have to be, our mission should also include being prepared to accept these people and try to divert the infrastructure to accommodate them.
I think we've covered those two topics.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Warden. Okay, second question. What do you feel should be Frontenac County's areas of strategic focus?
I think what Ron has just said about being advocates for the municipalities is a good spot to put it in this number too. Jerry?
I agree with that. As a township, we are too small to do or to be a major advocate for ourselves. I mean, we can always do that, but to have the county advocate in our behalf with our support, it's a great idea.
One thing I was curious on is a bit of an update on the broadband, because I know that broadband is a quote strategic area of focus from 2019-22 and that, and yet we still have dead spots all over Howe Island and Wolf, et cetera. And so I'd like to get an update on that particular piece, because, you know, to just say broadband and not know what improvements are still yet to come would be helpful in that. And despite South Frontenac not being a fan of regional road system, I think roads and connections should be a focus. I also believe shoreline protection should be a focus, because the reality is we have had bouts of high water, low water, et cetera. And whether you're on the Lake Ontario, St. Lawrence, or on some of the inland lakes, have a bit more fluctuation control, maybe not as significant as erosion, but when you see acres of your land disappearing and your house surrounded, that should be a focus within this Frontenac County. And also, I believe there should be a focus on innovative agricultural funding and practices, because most of our land is still prime agricultural. And until people don't have to eat, I think that is a huge strength that we have in this area. And I'd like to see that we are not dependent on food coming in from Mexico, US, California, et cetera, and that. And I think that we have an ideal setup as a triangle between Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal to become major agricultural, much like Ottawa area has been doing, but they're getting overrun by houses. Let's make sure we are in a good position.
You need to come north and see our agricultural lands, Judy. Rocks and trees and swamps.
You know, we
Okay.
need to get the University of Guelph up there, because when I was up in New Liskeard, I was amazed at the agriculture that's going up on there, and that is the mid-north.
Goats do very well. Jerry?
So on that issue, I used to work for a contractor and I would go up to New Liskeard, and there's an area in there, like corn takes 92 days and their growing season is 96. There's a valley, but it's a really heavy clay and it's very unique to the north. It doesn't extend south to North Bay or go north to Kapuskasing or whatever. But to go back to your comment about coming north, we grow rocks and trees. You know, we have very little in the way of agriculture. We're more in the area of tourism. We're more in the area of logging, gravel, like natural resources, but there are not very many working farms. And if there are, they're not doing particularly well.
Maple syrup is a big production. Ron?
Well, I have two comments. When I talked about, I gave you a couple of examples of before of what the county is advocating, and going back to that, we had a delegation at AMO and the county and partnered with municipalities about the Ministry of Environment. And of course, when you get players like Kelly that's been around for a while, they know everybody. And that meeting, they facilitated it. They seemed very interested. We got a phone call the next day. I'm not saying it's all resolved, but I'm saying that's how it works. So that part is very important. The only thing I could say about agriculture is I have farmed my whole life. If people will pay for something that they can't get cheaper from China, the farmers will stay. If you're willing to buy something from another place because it's cheaper, farmers have to quit. And that's how it works. That's how it's worked my whole life. And that's the way it will work. All we have to make sure is that we're not putting roadblocks in planning or some of these other things that don't eliminate agriculture. But it's the same old adage. If I could buy milk at Walmart from another country, that's $2 less for a bag. Your family, most families, except for the affluent ones that are buying at a private, are going to buy it. And that's the reality of it. If farmers were paid what they're supposed to be paid and it was bought here, there'd be lots of people in agriculture. And I farmed my whole life, so don't tell me.
Judy?
That speaks to the point of the innovation needed in farming, that they are farming on rooftops in Montreal. And I mean on top of grocery store rooftops where they're getting their food and putting it down on the shelf. They're farming out of containers. The rocky landscape, I can appreciate that. My grandfather Keown farm was along the Lowborough Lake. They also had the best cows that produce the highest quality of milk. They didn't try to plant corn everywhere because there's too many rocks, but guess what? There's lots of agricultural animals. So I'm just saying that this is a strong industry that is a long heritage, and there is a push by many people that are moving to the area that want to do organic agriculture, hydroponic agriculture, all sorts of new innovations. And I think we should be very open to it and supportive of it. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've got the farming is important. Are there anything else on number 2, areas of strategic focus? Nikki?
Deputy Warden, what I'd said was self-service and broadband and affordable housing for all ages and better rural transportation.
Agree with all that. I just want to add tourism to that.
I'm going to plant a seed, no pun intended, for the last question. And that is around, Councillor Gowdy, you mentioned the affordable housing. Housing is, I'll acknowledge that housing overall in its many forms is an issue right now that we're seeing in every community that we're supporting from an economic development standpoint. I'd like to plant the seed for the later question around the Umicore investment in Loyalist and the hundreds of anticipated jobs that are going to be produced, high-paying jobs, very skilled jobs, and where are those individuals going to live? Again, we'll put it at the end, but I just wanted to hear some perspective because it's going to come in very hard and fast when it's ready to go in the county here. Okay, let's move on to this, the next question. So what new areas of programming or services should be considered by the county?
Potable water availability. That may not mean full municipal systems, but potable water reservoirs, especially given the impact of climate change that can hit high water where it contaminates people's shore wells, low water when they can't get any water in their shore well or through their pipes. So having some sort of an avenue for potable water reservoirs near hamlets or things of that nature. My suggestion.
Other suggestions?
Maybe I'll sorry, go ahead, Councillor.
Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
My brain's a little slower than that. My apologies. With all due respect to South Frontenac, there are efficiencies to be gained when we can combine on services. And I know roads is a huge dollar amount. It's an issue across the entire county, but any opportunity we can find to coordinate services, I think is more efficient and saves money.
Are you thinking of things like tendering together and that kind of thing? Because we do that now.
That's above my pay grade. That's above my pay grade. I put that suggestion forward to the folks who know how best to do that.
Okay.
So I just have to add to that then. We put out a request to all of the islands and everyone else that we are tendering, that we are doing this, and they declined.
Previously.
Judy?
Just since we've broached the topic of roads and that, and having spent many years in Waterloo region, the upper tier regional Waterloo had very clearly designated regional roads. And it worked well. They stretched not only through Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, but also Woolwich, Wellesley, the other two counties that were up there and the other two townships, and they were the main thoroughfare. So when I look around and see one major road that is the length of Howe Island, two major roads that is the length and breadth of Frontenac Islands, to me, the reality is they should be considered regional roads. They used to be highways under the Provincial Act. So I don't think it should be off the table and that there actually be consideration for a real regional road system for the major roads.
Fred?
I agree with that. I know I can understand South Frontenac's position. But you know, when we have roads that aren't even safe, and I know some of the roads aren't safe, we don't have the money. And I'm sure we're missing out on some grant money somewhere along the line where we can't enable ourselves to have a good road. And it's very frustrating when you're on some of those roads and it says there's a bump here and you go over the bump, but you keep going and you go over bump after bump after bump because the road is just not built properly or not holding up properly. And I'm glad you got good roads down here. I'm glad that you've got a larger population to support.
We got lots of bad roads we can give you.
Well, Hey, they're probably, they might be better than what we have anyway. So, I mean, I just think that we got to look at it in a different view or a different way and maybe see if there's other money or funding from other grants or anything that can help us maybe improve our road system.
Okay, Nikki.
Just a suggestion, could the regional roads presentation that was done in the previous term be circulated to all the new members? Would that be helpful to everybody to understand maybe why South Frontenac has the stance they have and why other communities have different stances?
We
Please.
could also put it on the agenda to have it discussed again. Ron? You don't have a problem with that? Yeah. Because there's a lot of new folks that really has not seen that report. Okay. All right, Jerry.
I would like to see that. I'd also like to see maybe not a regional road network. Well, that would be ideal. It's obviously going, if we went that way, it'd obviously be a major fight or a major battle. But, and I don't know the answer to this, that's why I'm asking, so excuse me if I haven't got the background. If we can get the county to advocate for more grants or more dollars flowing into the county, specifically targeted at a road network, we could identify a major road or major road network. The county could advocate for the money, hopefully be successfully, the province would flow the money, and then we'd have to target that as individual townships towards the roads as we saw fit. But it's just a sort of a, can we thread the needle between no regional system and a regional system? You know,
You're going to find the report very interesting.
Okay.
It was a very good report. Ron?
I'm not saying that there would be an appetite or anything like that. I don't want to mislead anybody either. But I think if you took the roads that were former provincial highway and that's what you looked at, maybe. But if you're looking at the former county road system, there'll be no support for that from us. But in saying that, if it's Highway 38 or Highway 509 or a highway, something to that effect, that's totally different, I think. I think we all drive on that road. So that might be a little bit of a different twist to it.
And those are expensive,
Most expensive.
given to us from the province roads. Anyway, we're off on a tangent here. We're at strategic planning. Bill?
My comment about more efficiently coordinating services. I apologize for mentioning roads because obviously a hot button item, but we're currently doing that with IT, payroll, planning. I think there's opportunities for more of that because it's clearly more efficient for the county to, there's lots of examples where it's more efficient for the county to provide that service as opposed to each individual township doing it. So I guess my point is, can we explore more of those opportunities?
Thank you, Councillor. Ron, go ahead.
Just on that note then, I agree as long as it's a pay for service. I have no problem with that because we use services too for the county.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I would like to just share a couple of comments that might trigger some additional thoughts regarding programming and services considered by the county, touching upon senior housing, healthcare / paramedic services, mental illness and wellness, homelessness, lifestyle amenities, thinking it from the context of program and services that can be further enhanced or led by the county going forward. Does that resonate with any of you, those top important topics?
It's one of the things is that the city of Kingston is our service manager for a lot of those things. So we don't get as directly involved in it as most counties do. Ron?
I think if you wanted to live in a warm and fuzzy world, we'd say, of course. But the reality is that's not at this level of government, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, we are exploring a little bit of trying to help with doctor recruitment or some of those things on the fringe, but I don't see this level of government diving into mental health care and social housing and all those things. But somebody else might have a different opinion.
Okay, Fred?
Yeah, just, I know that homelessness is a real thing and it is everywhere. And I think as citizens, we should do what we can to help these people. And a lot of people, even people that were living okay a couple of years ago, maybe made a bad decision, ended up losing their home or they were renting and the landlord pulled a house out from under them and sold it to somebody else. That does happen. And then they end up in a position where they can't find any rentals and or suitable rentals, affordable rentals. And so next thing you know, they're homeless. And it's not just people that can't get work. It's a lot of times people that can't afford to buy something or rent something. And I think that we should step up and try to do something about that.
We do refer them to the service managers who've got the people that will help them, assist them to financially and supports that they can help them find. Judy.
Just since the good warden mentioned the other provision of service and that, just to give you an overview, in Waterloo Region, the upper tier was made up of representatives from the 3 cities as well as the 4 townships. That was the standard component of all the meetings. And yes, they did cover off water, sewer, waste, regional roads, social services, all the big decisions were at the upper tier. The small. We are unique, but at some point in time, maybe we need to reevaluate our uniqueness of that.
Ron?
Well, just for a little history lesson, then when amalgamation happened, there was no Frontenac County. So it was a management board. That's what was agreed. That was put in place. We've expanded a lot from there. I'm not saying we haven't, but that was the agreement and we are expanding.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Fourth question is to how can or should the county strategic plan help each of the townships deliver upon their own goals? And I acknowledge that some of you are going through the process of also updating your own strategic plans, but how do you see this plan supporting the delivery of your own initiatives?
Judy?
With financial support and planning expertise and engineering experts, such as people that are expert in drainage, people are expert in road rehabilitation, especially when you're looking towards asset management. That level of expertise, if we can tap into it at the county at an affordable rate, would be very helpful. And you don't have it, and maybe we should, and that rather than just going outside to the outside consultants and paying very good money and having it fragmented, let's get organized on a continuing plan and quality.
Remember the budget we just went through? Okay, who else? Nikki?
I guess to repeat the word before, but advocate. The county is our advocator for our strategic goals on each township. So that's where I see them coming in and helping.
Jerry?
I think from North Frontenac's perspective, we will look at what the county comes back with and what's actually developed, and we will do our best to dovetail some of our strategic initiatives into what the counties are already proposing, and then we'll add a few more of our own possibly. So, you know, that if you have a strong advocate, this is what you were talking about, Nikki, if you have a strong advocate and it's easier to put something you want to do instead of being over here, then I kind of want to be under the big umbrella if we can. We can always fine tune it at the lower level if we have to, but you want a strong voice. So we will pay very close attention to what the county does.
Okay, Bill, and then Ron?
In my view of things, the county's the big dog. Okay, and you carry a lot of weight, and having had the experience of going to the Roma conference and seeing how we can use that expertise at the county level to advocate for our specific issues, I think that's a resource that at this point, that our township at least doesn't have the expertise or hasn't used properly. There were lots of opportunities to advocate, and we just weren't prepared. So having support from the county for that would be most helpful.
Right, Ron?
The county is the approval for our new official plans and subdivisions and those things. Would we like Joe to be a little bit more lenient? We'd have a lot more development. However, we have to work within the guidelines of what the county has set out from the province. I understand that, but we do work closely with them on those sorts of things too.
Okay. All right, number 5.
Okay, next question is how can Frontenac County services be delivered more efficiently, effectively, and economically? And I know Councillor Saunders, you did make mention of some of that. We'll maybe open it up to the rest.
Judy?
By establishing a roads, engineering, water, drainage consulting arm at the county level. I think it would help to improve the quality for everybody that, you know, gets faced by having fragmented and different consultants all the time. Much like we have planning all at the county level, let's get that level of expertise here.
Jerry?
I can see your point. But, of course, that speaks to a loss of individuality. And it will be, as Ron indicated earlier, a pay for service. I don't know if it's going to be any more cost effective, maybe a little. What you might get is a more uniform application of a set of standards, which would be good. But to see a loss of service, it would come down to, you know, do we want to do that? What's the impact on the local staffing levels? What's the impact on the budget at the end of the day?
If it comes down to a pay for service, the efficiency, I'll say, might be in actually finding the resource. Right? I mean, it's hard to find engineers, it's hard to find building inspectors, it's hard to find all of these things. And if it's say, for argument's sake, the county created something of this effect and the service is paying for it, then the most effective thing they might be accomplishing is the actual resource.
Any other comments? Jerry?
Just one more. North Frontenac and Central Frontenac do corroborate on certain issues. And we're looking to between Fran and I especially, and our CAOs, trying to make that relationship even stronger. Because there should be some cost savings and so on, maybe tendering. We don't know yet. We're kind of working on it.
I will say with the county, what is it called? Lean Six program has really taken hold and has worked its way through to show some efficiencies in different processes. And I think has saved the county lots of time and money, and I believe they've also started to work with the municipalities as well to train them to do the same thing in our own municipalities. I think that's been very fruitful. Okay,
Thank you, Deputy Warden.
number 6,
Next question is, oh, sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
Kelly.
Just as on a Kelly and staff to-do list, there were 2 reports that I think council needs to review. The first being the regional road study, which was essentially a virtual model similar to Lennox and Abington, where there was a virtual road system managed locally. And option 2 on that was to essentially South Frontenac would be the regional roads authority contracted to the county, and their expertise would be available, but they would have to augment their staff on a user pay basis. So those were the 2 options presented to the previous council. The second report was the Strategy Corps report that the 4 townships in the counties cooperated on, that identified the areas of potential cooperation. This little thing called the pandemic kind of got in the way of it, but it cataloged all the areas that the consultants suggested there could be regional cooperation. So I don't know that we want to have that in one meeting. It might be 2 meetings, but I can circulate the reports and certainly provide an overview of both of them Because there's no point in reinventing the wheel if there's aspects of either one of those that council is interested in.
We have done some of that, whether, we were going out for insurance tendering or for other things. We've always included municipalities and county in trying to get the best.
It's just a question for the CAO. I recall, I don't know how many terms ago it was, but there was a 6-option thing about roads, regional roads that was brought forward. I don't know, that happened. I remember seeing, sitting through that kind of a meeting.
Yeah, that was the 2019 KPMG report. So the two options were a virtual network, the same as Lennox and Addington, where there were limited engineering resources at the county, which is what Lennox and Addington does, but entirely managed locally. And the other preferred option was essentially the Public Works Director for South Frontenac would wear 2 hats. We would augment their staff to provide it because they've already got a very good engineering, project management, coordination staff. And it would only involve the regional roads identified in the county official plan, which is, and Joe's the expert on this, but slightly more than Highway 38, but less than, every single connecting road. It's essentially those that go outside the township and are considered major thoroughfares.
Joe?
You want to create a snapshot, what the proposal was. Take a look at the land use map and the county official plan. And it identifies what defines the regional road system. And that road system was based on meetings we had with public works now. So you can see some roads there that would be potential highways, more county roads, but what needs to be important for, as Kelly said, connecting the county to the other parts of Eastern Ontario. So for example, in the central.
Just quickly, when it was disbanded in 1997, the county road system only included half of our county. It did not go into the northern half of the county. It only included the roads that are part of South Frontenac. I think a little bit in central, possibly in Hinchinbrook, former Hinchinbrook. No, okay, none then. And then Frontenac Islands, Howe Island the Howe Island Road was a county road. And then, as you mentioned already, Mayor, the 2 major roads on Wolf were provincial highways with a 7-person MTO staff on Wolf Island.
History. All right, let's keep going. We are 22:12. So
Thank you. Next question is, how can the county advance community engagement in order to improve service to its citizens?
Judy?
Either quarterly, seasonal open house / town hall style listening sessions. And that you can do a small presentation of what it is, but truly a listening session to the residents if you want to improve communication.
Okay. Other ideas? Ron?
At my age, I'm not going to advocate for it. However, it is obviously social technology has to be. I mean, don't get me wrong. Am I going to look at it much? No, I don't look at my own township website. However, if you want anybody younger than, I'll say my children, they're not going to call somebody to do something. They're going to find it on their phone, whether it's tearing a tractor apart or a service they need in a county, and they just find it on their phone. So it has to be something that's obviously that easy.
Media is certainly what people turn to these days for information. But I think we have a pretty good spot in the social media with all of the things that we do. Others, comments? Jerry?
We're advocating furthering our social network to our webpage more and more and more. We still advertise some of the things in the local newspaper and so on. And eventually I can see a day where we won't be doing that. It'll all be electronic. And with regard to larger meetings, we're hoping we don't do those. I'd much rather do a meeting with 6 or 8 or 10 people, because the dictators are kind of controlled. When you get 40 or 50 or 80 people in a room, you end up talking to the first 10 or 12 people. And sometimes they overpower the more introverted people. So.
May I challenge council and ask about non-technology based options?
Well, I was just going to add to that. When we actually put up electronic billboards, that was our number one feedback of what people read. And it was odd because we thought, seriously, but we put them on the main corridors. It was about open houses and recruitment for fire. And so in the survey, in the open house survey, which was hugely attended before COVID, was where did you see it? And it was on the electronic billboards on the main road. Second was Frontenac News and our website or whatever. But the main thing, believe it or not, was the electronic billboards.
May I challenge council and ask, what is the pulse of your local townships in terms of engagement on the Engage Frontenac portal website? Do we feel that it's an underutilized asset? It's used well, everyone knows about it, beyond what's on your own township websites?
Judy?
I don't know.
Frontenac Islands usually doesn't even get the Frontenac News delivered to us. We don't have electronic boards except at the docks that are controlled by MTO, which I was in concert with one of the directors just yesterday. I said, you know something, the boat's a little late. What it tells me is that the exit is at Queen Street. Can you please get some worthwhile information on the information boards that you actually have? So while there's Facebook and 24-hour yard sale and cottagers life and that are lots of social media, I have lots of people that didn't even have cell phones when they were waiting in the lineup and the boat wasn't running for 10 hours. So I was going down to tell them what the time was that the boat would restart. So I'm very cognizant. There are some that rely on radio, rely on word of mouth, and do still value face-to-face meetings. And if you have a good facilitator, you can shut down the ones that are taking over the meeting by saying, okay, you've had your say. You can put anything else in writing. I'm listening to the other people.
Okay. Jerry?
We have an electronic billboard in front of our township offices that they use. I don't know how effective it is. I really like to hear that feedback. So we have a number of Facebook sites or platforms, and when they don't like one, they just add another one. And you don't know if you want to put a comment on one, which one do you use? So like there's what's happening in North Frontenac. There's one called What's Really Happening in North Frontenac. It's like, come on. Yeah, but one of the top questions is, what are the waste site hours?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and now we're getting, and I did one this morning before I came down, go to the website and click on this. And people just don't want to do it. It's easier to ask somebody else. But there's going to come a day when it's going to be all digital, whether we like it or not. We're going to get there.
I'd be surprised how many calls I get. Do you know the extension for seriously? Right? Because it's easier to ask somebody than it is actually to go through somewhere and actually find it.
Nobody has made mention of the county app that exists. I think it's a great resource. I have it on my phone, but just wanted to, I think that's maybe an underutilized asset as well too, from an
Okay.
engagement perspective.
I've
Fred?
gone to the county website and looked up the map system. And I really like the map system that they have. It's interactive, and a lot of times I can find what I'm looking for.
Okay, go ahead, Jerry.
If we have difficulty driving people to the North Frontenac website, I don't think they're on the Engage Frontenac website. But I don't know for sure what that is. If there's some kind of way of tracking that, it'd be nice to have a presentation on that. And then we could be more confident in when we promote it. But That's kind of just the way it is with the current population that we've got.
Across all of our applications in January, we had 50,000 engagements. So that's across Engage Frontenac, Twitter, Facebook. So we are getting traction. And I think we're getting a fair bit of engagement. The issue I've heard about the Engage Frontenac site is the county paid for that through municipal modernization funding, and all 5 are there. So that can be seen as a disadvantage or an advantage because we promote one site for all 5 municipalities. Or do you want to have your own? But there are startup costs and management costs associated with that. But right now, Engage Frontenac is all 5 together. And I think, from Matt's perspective, not to put words in his mouth, but I'll put words in his mouth. That's where we try to drive actual feedback and engagement too, and get questions and answers through that, and do frequently asked questions on that site. Is it the most effective manner? I don't know. I'm one of those people that I'd prefer to look it up than to call somebody. My wife is the person that will call somebody rather than look it up. So don't know.
Ron?
Well, the only thing I found that when we were doing a survey and it was on Engage South Frontenac, there was confusion. Because at the same time, at the end of Sydenham Road, Engage Frontenac had a big sign. And so I know there was some confusion that people were running into. So, but I know there was a collaboration with all of us on that Engage Frontenac.
We did hear last night at our meeting that someone tried to get on and it was difficult. There were some problems with it, so just throw that out there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving into the 7th question. What partnerships and or collaborative opportunities can or should the county develop or strengthen looking forward?
Judy? Judy did her homework and wrote it all down. You guys write stuff down.
I think we should have a stronger link with the Ministry of Environment around especially the safe water aspect. And that it impacts not only the Frontenac Islands and that is, great, almost all of the people's water comes from shoreline, whether it's from shore wells or pipes. The wells in the village are contaminated and that's where people get their water from. But I'm sure a lot of the smaller lakes and rivers in the north and central area and that there are people that have their water put at risk when the water rises up over top their shore wells and it contaminates it and they don't know how to get it cleared up again. A couple of years ago, I invited public health to actually come and held the meetings and it was so well attended and they loved it because they had no idea how to shock their shore wells and when it needed to be done. The same with when the water is low in that. But on the big picture piece, it's the Ministry of Environment under their Safe Water Drinking Act that currently, if you purchased water, potable water from Sydenham or City of Kingston or Napanee or Brockville, and you brought it back to a potable reservoir, you still would have to treat it again before you could distribute it compared to just test it again. This would be a very simple amendment that I think if it was brought in, could benefit a lot of rural municipalities, not only in Frontenac County, but across much of Ontario where we don't always have municipal water systems. But people do need to have access to safe drinking water. So if we could get the Ministry of Environment, who I gotta say was very helpful in the fall time when so many of our residents had exposed water lines because of the low water, they couldn't even insulate it with hay bales because it was going to be considered landfill and they were going to be fined. And I already have residents that are still fighting fines when they were trying to save their land from the high water of 2017-19. So the Ministry of Environment, when I engaged Ted Hsu, got their heads out of their dark sides and realized, yes, as long as the hay bales are taken off by March 31st, you don't even need a permit for it. So there is flexibility. And I think we should be looking at getting the option because as we deal with more and more weather fluctuation, I don't see it improving. If you do, then you're looking at someplace other than the rest of the world. So I think we need to try to get ahead of it. And I think it's a simple amendment and we should all get behind something to ensure that we could, in the emergencies or as needed, that you can purchase potable water from a major municipal supplier and not have to treat it. You can still test it. I don't care if it has to be tested every day. That's far more affordable than having to go through the whole treatment system again when it's already potable and go into a potable reservoir, much like you see if you go to the city of Kingston back of Gardner's Road. Great big groundwater reserve tower. They're not always up in the air. They just need to have gravity fed. Something like that may be our saving grace before you know it, and it may help with development at some point too. So that's where I think if we make a much stronger link with the Ministry of Environment, giving our natural environment and challenges, I think it'd be very helpful.
Ron,
I gave 4 examples of what the county, I think, does a very good job for us. And I think they are strong on those opportunities. And when we identify opportunities at county level, county council, or through planning staff, or through other things that we see as a priority, I think they've done a very good job on it. So you can say we need to strengthen, maybe we need, when things come up, we add them. I'm not saying we don't. But I think they've done a very good job at the partnership. And
The only thing I'd add is that that's in essence what the Municipal Service Corporation is intended to do, is to provide safe drinking water and septage to the community. And we have had several meetings with both the minister and ministry staff and how that Municipal Service Corporation evolves. We've made a commitment that it will be based upon the needs of the township. So the needs in Frontenac Island may be very different than the needs in Central Frontenac or North. But through that service corporation, those opportunities are available to the entire county, and we have been meeting with the minister and ministry staff.
Okay, I also see it for places that are small hamlets, and that, for example, on Wolfhound, because is the most familiar area, and that up at the Easy Lane area, that virtually all the shore wells get contaminated when there's high water. And along that, so that would be about 30 homes, and that down towards Holiday Point potentially. These could be hamlets that on their own purchase their own reservoir for potable water, and that they make their decision. It doesn't always have to be the municipality, but that piece of the act stops it. And it's so easy to get it fixed. And I was involved when Walkerton inquiry went through and things, and they tried to get it right. This is one piece that just needs to be amended to get it right for smaller municipalities and even little groups of people, so they have a backup plan.
And that's so that the issue is 5 or more homes on the same well or same communal system. So that's why we're going to the communal services system, because that gets completely around it. How that gets operated will be a decision of this council and of the board of directors. But a small community of 30 houses, I agree 110%. There are viable communal service solutions out there, and that's what the Municipal Service Corporation is intended to solve.
okay.
Just before I move to the last question, I have 2 kind of sub questions that have come up. I'm just going to throw it out here. Can I don't want to assume, suggest that maybe the right partnerships are in place, but maybe the opportunity is to improve effective, frequent, and transparent communication between the parties. I'm just going to put it out there because I know that the county and its townships are very well connected, and looking at opportunities to take those relationships from good to great. Secondly is, what can you, from a partnership perspective with neighboring municipalities that maybe are perceived as commercial hubs that border certain parts of the county or townships that have fairly significant potential for economic impact or influence on all or certain parts of the county? Are those relationships across county boundaries? How are they, and how do we take them from good to great?
Okay, I'll start with that one. I believe that the partnership and the collaboration that we have now with the county is improved about 150% from 7 or 8 years ago. There was never a collaboration between the CAOs. Everybody did their own thing. That has changed drastically to the better of all of our townships. I think if there's any idea we have, we are very open, both in the municipality and the county, to sit down and talk about it and try to figure out how we can solve it together. So that partnership and collaboration, in my mind, and I've been here a long time, is stronger now than it's ever been. Ron?
Will point out, and I think, and I've always told our council too, that I don't think we've used it enough. However, the economic development side, whether it's the trail or whether it's all of these businesses, that is countywide. And I think to that point, it definitely has made a lot more businesses realize there's other businesses or have talked to other businesses or done those things. And I know the trail was a big focus, and it still is, but the economic side of people connecting with other people has really improved to countywide.
Judy?
I'd have to say from the Frontenac Islands perspective, it's actually on a downward trajectory. It has been for a long time. I hear it from residents on any of the islands. Of course, one of the source points is always regarding ferry service, but the other, almost anything, and that there doesn't seem to be an advantage that's visible to the residents of the county. And that's why I urge the county to consider having some face-to-face meetings, because there needs to be a real trust rebuilt and communication that is two-way communication. And I think there's a lot of homework to be done, and that with Frontenac Islands, and that's my honest opinion. And it didn't happen overnight, but it's not going in the right direction. And that because I'm constantly being asked exactly what are we getting back. So we need to be very articulate and point out that, yes, we're advocating for this, we're advocating for that, we're doing this. But I really think we need to have some county representation. So we always welcome when planning comes to us and talks to us and things of that nature, and it's well attended. And for example, on Monday's meeting, we had over 30 people on Zoom. And that, this is pretty good. And then it spreads out from there and other people that can pick it up. But it's not a strong relationship on Frontenac Islands. And I think Bill can speak to how Island's feeling towards the county at this point in time.
For Howe Island, I think for most folks, there's a lack of understanding. The current bylaw or the current legislation comes down from the province regarding zoning has people confused. I think there's a lot of people think that we should be able to control that. So there's a lot of education involved. The biggest hot button issue, and this will surprise everybody, is the ferry. So as we resolve that, not roads, Ron. Well, roads, but not anyway. My apologies. The biggest complaint is not understanding what's happening with the ferry, and I think, as the CEO has mentioned, actively working to improve staffing levels, more support from MTO is all going in the right direction. But the other services are not well understood.
Yeah, I think once residents understand that the county does not own the ferry, they might like us better and not like MTO as much. Over here, Jerry.
From a North Frontenac perspective, and I'm going to kind of qualify this thing, it's really coming from me and from what I see as being a new mayor. Our relationship with the county and our neighbors to the south are good. We're looking to make them stronger. We don't have the ferry issue, that's for sure. We do have a road issue, but other than that, that's our issue at this point in time. And we have a healthcare issue, which, where everybody's working on. But I know if I need something, I can call Kelly or talk to somebody else, to Joe or somebody, and I get an answer, and they're more than willing to come and say, this is what we can do for you. What do you want? So right now I'm looking to get even better, but I have no issues with the county.
Okay, final question. It's just open it back up to any additional thoughts, comments, or suggestions you'd like us to consider in the development of the county's strategic plan. Also, I made I planted a seed about the comment on housing with respect to some major investments taking place very close proximity to the county. Just putting it out there. Any last things that you'd like us to leave today thinking about or considering?
Just building on what we were saying before, and that I think it would help if we had a clear demonstrated list of activities that the county has undertaken and how they have productively impacted the Frontenac Islands. I think that that would be a wonderful information session for the islanders to see, you know, just how much support we do get from the county. And it would help to hopefully reset some of the expectations that they have.
Jerry.
Just one last comment, and Jason, you referred to just now affordable housing. I think we've kind of maybe underestimated the impact of that just a little. We have a problem. We're going to have to keep investing in it. This 7 years, 7,000 homes might bring a whole new revolution. I don't know. What builders are going to build? Are we going to build 900 or 1,200 square foot homes the way we used to build them, 40 years ago? Or are we going to build 3,000 or 4,000 square foot monstrosities? And it comes down to tax base, available land, and all the other good things. It's just that it's a problem that I don't think we can put too far back, but it hasn't really reared its head today very much.
Just on that note, and you'll see it in the presentation, but they have road housing in it. They have all of the different demographics of affordable housing and not affordable housing. To some people it is, but all of that is in the 7 and 7. It is partnerships with communities if they own land. It's in partnerships with developers. All of those things are addressed in the 7 and 7.
Fred?
Yeah, on that topic as well, we have to be prepared for growth. I think growth is coming, whether we think it is or isn't, and we have to be prepared.
I think it's come to some of us already. Okay, anything else? Yes, go ahead.
And I don't know whether this is a place or not, but we haven't mentioned long-term care, and this council, within this term of council, we're going to have to make it a significant decision what to do with Fairmount Home. It is coming up on its 25th anniversary. We had a plan completed last year by GE Architects that gave us some options, and the clock is ticking. The province wants more homes. That home will probably not survive, not this term of council, but the next term of council. And the planning process for a new home is about 5 years.
So, what you're saying is that you're going to have to build up Fairmount Home, maybe add more beds, more rooms to facilitate the growth?
Yeah, and I think I'll add that to the list of things that we need to bring back to this council, because the last council received it at the end of their term and referred it to this council, so we can bring back the plan. Essentially, they looked at whether it be more cost effective to renovate an old building or to build a new building. And the architect's recommendation was that it would be easier and more cost effective to build a new building. Having said that, we can continue to punt down the highway and continue to invest in aging infrastructure that isn't meeting the needs of residents.
Are we going to get support from from the province rather to help that?
Well, as I said in my CAO report, that is one of the things that we're advocating for, because the current funding formula for capital, because the province pays you over 20 years, would put our debt limit in jeopardy. So without some changes to that, we would essentially go into debt so far that if a bridge on the KMP trail went out, or the roof of that'd probably be an insurance issue, that we wouldn't have borrowing capacity. So it is a significant issue, but it's not an issue that we can say at the end of the day, we're going to do nothing. We have to do something. And that may be a $20 million renovation of the existing. It may be an addition on the existing, or as the architect is proposing, the easiest, cleanest solution is to build a brand new 160 bed facility, which is the optimum for distributing your administrative costs over.
I'm sure this isn't the place to get into a discussion on it, but is the thought ever there of actually moving to a different location? We don't have actually even water and sewer there.
We could move to a different location, but our agreement with the city of Kingston is contingent upon that location and 128 beds. So if we move to Sydenham around the corner, then it would be entirely a county responsibility. Even adding beds will add more to the county levy than to the township or to the city.
Since that's one of my areas of concern, and that I just have a couple questions. And that back when they did a big thrust around the 1999, 2000 timeframe, it was being funded at $75,000 a bed. Have they changed that figure at all? And it was also like winning the lottery if you had more beds assigned to you. Have they changed that procedure as well if we're looking at expansion?
Yeah, the funding formula now, and I just need to press the pause button because they have modified it if you can be in the ground by September the 1st. But the funding formula outside of that is based upon your location. And Susan and Alex are more familiar with this. I'll turn it over to Susan, but a rural bed gets less than a city bed, for example. So Susan, Alex, I'm now in over my head. But as a Warden's Caucus, we did commission KPMG to study.
Okay.
It illustrates the issue perfectly.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to follow any of that. I was part of a brand new build of 225 bed, what was a chronic care hospital that essentially became a complex long-term care. And the design of it was ahead of its time, completely independent for people. Like that is truly the direction to go. But I just am very curious if they're saying that you can build it for less in the country, we need to give them their heads a shake and point out that we should actually be getting more funding.
And we have.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Ward.
And certainly this discussion will be further than just the strat plan as well going forward. Lunch has arrived. How close are we to wrapping up, Jason? Couple of minutes?
Yes, Deputy Warden, just a
Okay.
few minutes. As I move to the next slide, I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that I would be looking for some guidance from all of you. We have a number of planned one-on-one meetings that we would like to take advantage of. We would look to you for whether it's yourself or others that you feel within the county that we should be meeting one-on-one with for additional insights to support this. I'll make sure that all of you also have my business card before leaving today. Our contact information is on the presentation deck as well too. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Oh, and just need a hand going to the next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so the next steps from today is this concludes our 5 of 5 council focus group discussions. We appreciate this. We'll be working on consolidating all of the information. We're going live this week with the surveys. We're finalizing some logistics around some open houses. We'll be consolidating all of this information and putting together a draft strategic plan for submission and presentation and for your feedback as well too, in order to work towards that final plan. Timing is currently the draft strategic plan is end of May, early June, and I believe it's the July 17th council meeting is for the final presentation to council for adoption and approval. And lastly, again, thank you for the opportunity. My information along with my colleague is available on screen there. We look forward to continuing the conversation. If you have other thoughts or ideas or opinions that come to mind following today's discussion, but we appreciate the opportunity to sit with all of you today. Thank you.
Okay, and if you've thought of something else on the way home or next week, send an email with your comments and Jason will be collecting all of those as well. Ron?
I know it's supposed to be county council's strategic plan, which I understand, and partnering municipalities, obviously. I don't need a one-on-one with you because unless I haven't made myself clear, I usually don't. So, but anyway, I've had an opportunity at our council. I've had an opportunity here to say whatever I want. If someone else needs to stress something stronger to you, they can. I'll say Kelly, but does some key staff people have an opportunity to at least say, these are some of the things that we see from our side of it that county council might not have identified?
Yes.
Do they get that opportunity? Because I think that's somewhat important too. We're not geniuses, and a lot of times we're led by staff to say, okay, well, this is what we should look at or shouldn't look at. If they have that opportunity, I think that's important. I think I've had lots of opportunity to say what I want. So
Very good point. And not to discount the new people, but there are lots of new people around the table who haven't worked in the county system. So I think, again, I'm like you, Ron. I've said just about everything I can think of. And if I haven't, I'll send you a note. But certainly the new folks may be the ones who you would want to have the one-to-one with. Okay, it is, oh, Judy, last comment.
Just a point, on Wolf Island tonight at the hotel, there is community talks. Starts at 7 o'clock. If you'd like to get on the 6 o'clock boat, come over to the hotel. You'll find a lot of interesting movers, shakers, entrepreneurs, etc. They're very involved in community. I think you get a good reception to listen and find out what's on their minds and then engage.
Okay. And is there anything else to come before us today? Because if not, we are going to adjourn this meeting, not to return and have lunch upstairs. Okay, thank you, everyone.